This is Tyler O'Neill, a managing editor at the Daily Signal. I am honored to be joined by Julie Mauck and Doug Turpin and Jonathan Vogel. Uh, you guys are here to talk about a very important case, and I want to zero in on Julie for a second. Julie, you are a licensed realtor. You are the chapter head of a Moms for Liberty chapter there in Georgia. Can you tell us why you were, in your view, why libel was committed against you and how this situation worked where you lost one of your brokers and your brokers have essentially been harassed in an attempt to cancel you.
Yes, sure. I actually started the chapter. I was the original founding chapter in Georgia for Oconee County, a little town in rural Georgia, northeast Georgia, and started Moms for Liberty during COVID, about 6 months after they launched nationally in Florida, starting in Florida. And yeah, originally it's about defending parental rights. That's the basic tenet of our organization. The right, whether you mask your children, whether your children attend school, those types of things, and having a say on what their education's going to be. And that kind of morphed into the library situation where they are putting sexually explicit obscene material into children's sections of the libraries, both at the schools and just the public library. And it became clear, well, I should go back and say that after launching the chapter in Georgia, I almost began getting attacked right away, because of the masking issue. And my my original broker here, I've been in business for 20 years, licensed for 20 years, but my broker here let me go over the masking comments, some masking comments, and then just constant harassment. I had to take my Google account down. Actually, Google took my account down because they would leave false reviews and things, just constant attacks. And then when the library issue came up, because I'm known for Moms for Liberty in the area, a lot of people contacted me and they said that they were having a book read to children last June, so June of 23. It was a RuPaul book about being a drag queen. And a lot of the parents, again, this is a very small conservative Christian community, and they were upset that they were having pride events. A club at the library was also having uh, the gay teen club march in a local pride parade in an adjacent county that's not so conservative. So that was an issue too. The sexualization, overall sexualization of children, and so
So you spoke up at a school board
right,
meeting about this,
right,
and
yeah,
specifically the book Flamer,
right.
which, how would you describe this book and what were your concerns?
Oh my goodness, it is so vulgar. It's actually what they call a graphic novel, and it was in the teen section, which it's ALA uh, regulations, so to speak, to call teens young adults now. They like to kind of adultize, children, um, if that's a word. But it is a graphic novel, and just the language alone in the book should have precluded it from being in the children's section. It was just a filthy book, and it was about a boy that goes to Boy Scout camp and has feelings of being gay, but there were things I probably shouldn't mention on here. It's very vulgar. um, so yes, we had put that book up, or another person had actually put that book up for reconsideration, and quite a few people spoke up in support of that.
And so you spoke up again about removing the book or moving it to an adult section.
Yeah, moving it to the adult section. Nobody has asked any books to be banned from the library. And that's kind of a misnomer nationally at this point. They're calling it book banning everywhere you go, but nobody's asked for a single book to be banned. It's all been about, putting it in an age appropriate section.
When these are often sexually explicit materials, I've seen, genderqueer, lawn boy, some of them, especially graphic novels,
Right.
they include physical, very X-rated things. But so this individual um, came up behind you with a sign,
Hmm.
and this sign said, joy is for all ages
Hmm.
in the context of this debate. And can you tell me more about this individual? Yeah.
Sure. Well, the individual, her name is Fiona, but she goes by Felix Bell. But she actually, as soon as she came into the room, it was very clear that she wanted to be kind of behind me. She knew who I was. I had no idea who she was. She has a full beard, was wearing a dress, and holding a sign, not that says joy is for all ages. I think it's an important distinction that it actually said joy is all ages,
Hmm.
which to me is very different. It's to me insinuating that it sexualizes children. That uh, in that context, the context of what that meeting was about. So um,
And
it,
so this Fiona Bell, she went directly to your broker, and then also filed a complaint against you.
Right. After the meeting, well, when I spoke, there were people just yelling at me for out of, they all knew who I was through Moms for Liberty, and they all came basically to make sure to bully me, and picked me out of the crowd. There was some question about whether they were even going to let me speak. So, yeah, they all just kind of piled on. And then after that meeting, um, she and then somebody named Danielle Bonanno, who is the head of the Athens Pride and Queer Collective, began contacting my broker at the time and telling my broker that I had said something that was not at all what I said during the speech. And it was on videotape that I never actually said what they accused me of saying. They said that I had said that everybody in the LGBTQ community were pedophiles, which is not what I said at all. And it was on videotape showing that I didn't say that. But they began contacting my broker, asking my broker to let me go. He talked to me. He said he was going to give me time to find a new broker because, as a real estate agent, you have to have a qualifying broker hold your license for you in order to practice real estate. And then they filed an ethics complaint. Fiona Bell filed an ethics complaint against me about a month later. And that's when my broker said, "You're going to have to find somewhere else to go." He
So,
said that he
uh,
believed everything I was doing, and he agreed with me, but I would have to go somewhere else.
so when these ethics complaints, and this ethics complaint, it made it through the first hurdle. You had to appeal after it was ruled against you. What essentially was claimed against you, and why did it successfully make it before you? Because you appealed, and then it eventually was struck down. You were vindicated,
Right.
but
Yeah.
why did it make it past that hurdle?
Well, I'd say that the reason why the first panel found Julie responsible of an ethics violation of Georgia Association of Realtors is because they thought that her even mentioning LGBTQ was somehow, horribly offensive and some kind of slur. And we came to learn that the chairperson of this three-person panel was of the view that, if you say something that hurts someone's feelings, then that's a violation, even if what you say is true. And then with
Wow.
respect to this idea of pedophiles, he said, listen, you can't even mention pedophiles because, in his view, pedophiles are a protected class of people under the Georgia Association of Realtors. it was absurd. Now, he didn't utter those things at the initial hearing. We only came to learn that that's the way he felt when he was at the appeal hearing, and he advocated for the appeal panel to uphold the original panel's decision. But it was
Wow.
quite strange. Our defense was always that Julie didn't say what they accused her of saying, and even if she did, it's not a violation of any ethics code of the Georgia Association of Realtors, and certainly she was acting in her personal capacity anyway, and not in any real estate transaction capacity.
Well, yeah, and so while I'm speaking with you, Jonathan, um, this lawsuit, she goes through three basic claims. One of them is torturous interference with a business practice. One of them is a violation of a Georgia law about another false practices, I believe, and then the other one is a libel claim. Can you go through how each of those applies? How the the woman who somewhat identifies as a man engaged in this, and then how the Athens Pride Collective was engaged in it.
Yeah, sure. I'll start with the Athens Pride and Queer Collective, which is kind of a doing business as name. The formal name of the entity is Athens Pride Incorporated. And we have a claim against Athens Pride Incorporated and against their president, Danielle Carmela Bonanno, for a violation of Georgia's Uniform Deceptive Trade Practices Act, which alleges that Julie is likely to be damaged by a business practice of another that was committed in the course of the business that were deceptive acts. And so here you have Danielle Carmela Bonanno acting as president of Athens Pride when she contacted Julie's broker and created a false impression of what Julie said and urged the broker to remove Julie from his oversight. And so that's really the crux. But that wasn't all that Danielle Bonanno and Athens Pride did. When Julie ultimately was able to find a new broker, and there were several months where she had no broker and was unable to practice real estate at all. But when Julie did find a new broker, Danielle Bonanno and Athens Pride contacted her new broker not once but twice, urging that new broker to leave Julie, and again stating falsely what Julie had said that day at the public library.
And the theory is that Athens Pride an is a company doing business, and therefore it's engaging in this against another company doing business.
Well, not that it acted deceptively in the course of its business. Both Athens Pride, the entity, and its president, Danielle Carmela Bonanno.
And then
And
the other
yeah,
claim,
I was going to
yeah.
say, and for a claim under Georgia's deceptive trade practices, what we seek is an injunction to stop the practices from happening. It's not a claim under Georgia law where you can receive damages other than attorney's fees, potentially punitive damages as well. Now, the other claims that we have are against Fiona Bell, also known as Felix Bell, where we have claims for tortious interference of Julie's business relations with her broker, and libel per quad. Libel per quad is a type of defamation claim saying that something was said about Julie that harmed her reputation. And the per quad part means that it's not essentially clear from the face of the statement. Rather, you have to look at the facts and the circumstances surrounding the statement to understand the defamatory nature. Very common in state law defamation.
So does the per quad um, descriptor, is that I've covered a lot of defamation cases overall, and where libel, but I haven't seen libel per quad as much.
Yeah, there are some states that, through their common law, typically, sometimes it's in their statutes, they provide two types of claims basically, either a defamation claim that's per se or a defamation claim that's per quad. A defamation claim that is per se usually stems from something in the statute that says if somebody says something about a particular thing about you, that is defamation per se. You don't even have to prove damages, it's presumed. If it's defamation per quad, you must look at the surrounding facts and circumstances to determine the defamatory nature of the statement.
And so overall, the relief that you're seeking is an injunction against Athens Pride, asking that, or, having the court or have them formally apologize, and then having attorney's fees. Are there, what other relief are you seeking?
The damages that Julie incurred during the time that she was not under any particular broker. And that was caused, we allege, by Fiona Bell, also known as Felix Bell, making the statements that were made to Julie's broker, making the statements that were made to the Georgia Association of Realtors in a falsely claimed ethics complaint. All that had an impact because ultimately Julie's broker at the time was served a copy of the ethics complaint, and only when he was served the ethics complaint did he drop Julie as from his brokerage. And then she spent several months without a broker, unable to practice real estate law, suffering damages.
I guess it was all based on that claim that pedophiles are a protected class, or is that more in the background? What was this particular, um, the open, the claim that she violated ethics? What's
Julie made a statement at the public library that day that essentially was that the Board of Trustees should not necessarily be swayed by all these LGBTQ protesters. After all, we don't even know what LGBTQ plus means anymore. Some people interpret the plus to even include pedophiles, which happens to be a true statement.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, there are people who are pedophiles and people who are apologists for pedophiles who are trying to associate themselves with the LGBTQ plus movement, saying that pedophiles are part of the plus. In fact, they try to avoid using the word pedophiles. They use a euphemism, minor attracted persons, or MAPS.
Yeah.
So the allegation was that Julie even, stating that was so abhorrent and was such a slur against anybody based on their sex or gender identity or sexual orientation or what have you, that it violated an article of the ethics code of the Georgia Association of Realtors that is really no more than a prohibition against discrimination in real estate practices, which is unsurprising because it's a code of ethics for real estate agents. But they tried
Right.
to make that stick to Julie for what she said, which wasn't abhorrent and was said in her personal capacity, not in her capacity as a real estate agent.
Well, what we've seen, I mean, the Southern Poverty Law Center put Moms for Liberty on the hate map last year with chapters of the Ku Klux Klan, and they've been following this line of reasoning they have against anti-LGBTQ hate groups, where they falsely claim that these groups say that you know that all LGBT people are pedophiles, and they've falsely claimed this, for years, in fact decades, for some organizations. It even led to a terrorist attack in 2012 against the Family Research Council.
Right.
So I want to hear from Julie, what what other instances of harassment have you faced after speaking out at this? And what was the most shocking thing that either Felix Bell or Pride and the Athens Pride collective made against you?
Well, I would have to say the most shocking thing that they said was that, that my takeaway was that pedophiles are a protected class. And they also said that the context in which I said what I did say did not matter. And um, and what was the other thing? There was the context didn't matter. Oh, and whether it was factual or not didn't matter. That whether what I stated was factual did not matter because it might hurt somebody's feelings. Therefore, it's hate speech. But the attacks started almost right away. I got something in the mail from somebody saying that I didn't represent Oconee County and saying hateful things in the mail. And then, the call from my broker, and then, of course, the attacks on my Google account. So Google ended up taking that down. I used it as an opportunity to say, look, this is what I'm doing. that I've never done business with you. This is this is what I said, what I'm doing. But Google ended up actually taking my business account down itself. So it was a scary time, actually. You kind of look over your shoulder, and it was very strange and sad.
Do you have an estimate for how much this financially harmed you? I mean, I know that probably, if the court rules in your favor, there would be a separate adjudication. But do you have a ballpark?
Yeah, I think without getting into the details, it's thousands of dollars of damage to Julie, and attorney's fees and loss of business during the time that she didn't have a broker.
Yeah. And so, Doug, what led you and the Coalition for Liberty to get involved in this important case?
Coalition for Liberty has been a big supporter of Moms for Liberty. We've gone to their annual meetings, we work with their chapters, and we've told them that, hey, if somebody is knowingly and intentionally lying about you to try to silence your voice, that's the essence of cancel culture. And that's the essence of our mission, is to stop people on the left from trying to suppress and silence other people's voices. If you can't win with just a argument that you put forth in a civil and respectful manner, then what they're doing is trying to win by cancel culture, by defaming people, costing them their jobs, and making everybody afraid to speak up and say what they think. That's their goal. And we believe that has to stop. So Julie heard about what we do and the protection that we provide everyday Americans. It's not just Moms for Liberty, it's people anywhere in this country. If you've been canceled with somebody knowingly and intentionally lying to try to harm you, to make an example out of you, and silence your voice so that everybody else is afraid to speak up, come to the Coalition for Liberty and we'll help you. So when Julie reached out, we thought, hey, here's a Moms for Liberty, an advocate for children. And the only thing she did was show up with other concerned citizens to a board meeting of the trustees of a public library. And she simply advocated for them to move the books that were highly sexual and inappropriate for children that are 5, to be able to wander up and see. And she asked them to move it into the adult section and said any parent can go ahead and give this to their books, but they can get parental consent this way for the parents to go ahead and approve giving this kind of book to the children. Well, that's not what these advocates want. These radical woke advocates want these books to be able for the young impressionable children to wander up and see and grab hold of. And so Julie being canceled, they cost her a job. They brought her up on false ethics charges. The key thing is everything they said was false and they knew it. And they still went through with this and they caused her harm. So Julie is a hero. She is somebody who's willing to go ahead and stand up and say, this has got to stop. And that's what the coalition's message is. This has to stop. Now people will, for the first time, start getting consequences for their actions. Historically, that's what deters crime, if there's consequences. This is terrible, awful, criminal type of behavior in our view, and we want it to stop. So we're funding this lawsuit to help Julie and everybody else that is an everyday American feel comfortable saying what they think.
Well, so Julie, I want to give you the last word. Um, you know, let's zoom out for a second here and think, you lost your job temporarily
Mm-hmm.
and face this constant onslaught to kick you out of business, all because you said something as basic as sexualized material should not be in the children's section. Um,
Right.
what do you think this is coming from? Are there aspects of this story that we haven't touched on? I mean, it's a huge story, so I want to let you just wrap it up if you would.
Yes, it's coming from, rural communities, for one thing, are a big target of the left. And the American Library Association is, last year, I'm sure you're probably aware, they elected a Marxist lesbian president who wrote a paper called Queering the Catalog about the American Library Association and desensitizing these subjects for children. So, and I can send you a bunch of information on that, but it's kind of from the top down. But the rural libraries are especially a target because they're considered conservative Christian, and they don't think that they should exist. But you had mentioned the SPLC earlier, and they actually wrote an article on this very meeting, on this very situation last week. It's called Pride Month Public Libraries in the Crosshairs, and they named me multiple times in it and this situation, but they never contacted me for any kind of statement or anything like that. So it's very one sided.
Do you think that they might be involved in this effort to cancel you?
Based on what was written in the article, I'd say so. They're certainly complicit in it, if nothing else. So, but Moms for Liberty, as you said, is a huge target of the SPLC.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. If there's anything else you'd like to add,
I would just like to say, speak up. If you're there, in good faith, wanting to protect children, which is what this is all about, people have got to start speaking up, and business owners have got to start having a backbone. They're on the right side of this. It's time for people to just do the right thing, and if you lose a few dollars from it, you lose a few dollars, but you can sleep at night.
well, thank you again so much for joining us. And thank you for letting us speak about this very important story.